Phones on silent.
Good morning. Buenos días. You are listening to the new WCEG Network, WCEG You can click on live stream or you can watch us on Smart TV. YouTube, WCEG Network. Buenos días, mi nombre es Ramona, estás en nuestro lugar bilingüe y hoy vamos a estar hablando con un tema muy interesante por una hora. My name is Ramona, and you are in Our Bilingual Place for an hour. We're gonna have an interesting topic. We are the worldwide community empowerment group where we speak live into the community. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, WCEG Radio and WCEG Network. I want to let you know that the comments and opinions are for the host and guest, but this is not for WCEG Network. Thank you always for your support. Están ustedes escuchando a WCEG Network, WCEG.radio.com. Ustedes nos pueden ver también por Smart TV, en YouTube, en WCEG Network. Mi nombre es Ramona y estamos en nuestro lugar bilingüe. Nosotros somos el grupo de empoderamiento en la comunidad mundial, donde nosotros hablamos la vida en la comunidad. Pues nos pueden dar un like en Facebook, seguirnos en Twitter, en Instagram, en WCEG Radio y WCEG Network. Las opiniones, los comentarios expresados en este programa no son responsabilidad de WCEG Network. Les agradezco mucho el soporte a este programa. Este tópico que hoy vamos a tomar hoy es muy importante para la comunidad y a mí especialmente me toca el corazón porque yo viví una situación similar cuando yo en mi niñez. Y creo que es importante que todos realicemos lo importante que es nuestra salud, lo importante que es identificar cuando has ido a tantos doctores y nadie te da una respuesta. So today we have Dessie Hall, and this topic touched me so close because in my childhood, I lived a situation similar to her. And it made me realize now I'm an adult, how important is your health, how important is to have a life that after you have gone to several doctors, nobody is able to get you a diagnostic and let you know what is happening in your body, what is the call for what you're feeling. So it is important. Dessie Hall, thank you so much for being with us today and able to, put out what happened to you and what is this illness. Please give us a little background on your life, where you reside, a little bit about you. So ella nos va a dar una introducción de quién es y cómo ha sido su diario caminar con esta enfermedad.
Well, good morning, Ramona, and everyone that's watching. I want to thank you so much for having me today and to be able to listen to my story in an effort to raise awareness. So I reside in the state of Georgia. And so my journey has been a challenge over the past 3 years because 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with a rare illness. And so I never heard of it. So let me just walk you through my story very briefly. One morning in the month of May in 2017, I woke up. And when I woke up, I felt fluid moving in my ear. And so I thought that was pretty unusual to it start draining from my ear. And so to fast forward, since that I was diagnosed with idiopathic intracranial hypertension, also now known as IIH. I was also diagnosed with a CSF leak, which is also known as a brain leak, and hydrocephalus. Hydrocephalus is a condition when there's excessive brain fluid surrounding your brain. It could cause your brain to float. It could cause it to swell. It could cause severe brain damage, which could lead to death. And so since then, I have had 3 brain surgeries and a VP shunt installed. And I thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dessie. So when you first received the diagnosis and at what age you were diagnosed?
Thank you. So at the time when I was diagnosed, if I stand correct, I was at the age of 43. And it was in October 2017. And at that particular time, it started from May, series of MRIs, CT scans, all kinds of different exams, which led to my diagnosis. Never in my life had I ever heard of any of the 3, especially idiopathic intracranial hypertension. And the word idiopathic means unknown. But at the time of my diagnosis, they told me that I was obese, and that led to my, you know, illness. But in this instance, I didn't consider myself to be obese, not severely obese anyways, but I didn't consider myself to be obese. But he said it was because I was obese. And so also people can be diagnosed with this situation if they were in an accident. And I had been in a minor accident, but I didn't think that had anything to do with it. But at the time, they said it was because I was obese. So from May up into October, I finally got my diagnosis. Had I not been persistent, we wouldn't be having this conversation today, because I wouldn't let it go, because I know my body. I was very healthy prior to being diagnosed. And I wasn't on any medication. Like I said, didn't have any health issues prior to then. And sitting here before you today. Only thing that I take today are vitamins. That's all I take.
Mm. Let me translate a little bit. Ella lo que nos está platicando es que es una enfermedad muy rara. Yo le pregunté a ella que cómo eran, bueno, ella nos deja saber un poco sobre su batallar con esta enfermedad. Ella dice que ella un día por la mañana, ella se levantó y empezó a sentir que su oreja estaba liqueando. Y ella pues se le hizo muy raro. Después, así fue como ella empezó a sentirse un poco mal y decidió ir al doctor. Después de ir al doctor, después de muchos rayos X, después de muchos, a lo mejor malos diagnósticos, porque esta enfermedad es muy rara, no mucha gente la conoce, le decían que era obesidad, pero después ella fue informándose más y le fueron dejando saber que esta enfermedad puede pasar a veces por pequeños accidentes. Ella tuvo un accidente, pero nunca pensó que fuera a ser esto. Entonces, por esta razón necesitan checar, a veces cualquier pequeña cosa te puede causar algo. Y dice ella que si ella no hubiera sido tan persistente en notar que su cuerpo no estaba bien, a lo mejor ella no hubiera estado aquí, porque es un liqueo en el cerebro y ese liqueo te puede causar la muerte. ¿Ok? La enfermedad es un liqueo cerebral. También lo conocen en inglés como IIH, por las siglas en inglés. Yo voy a tratar de pasar más información para que ustedes puedan buscar sobre este padecimiento y puedan tenerlo. Thank you, Dessie. So can you tell me about the symptoms you started feeling, that leads to the diagnosis?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, it started with fluid in my ear that eventually it started draining. And so at that particular time, my doctor said that he thought it was an ear infection. And he asked me, did you have a series of ear infections when you were a child? I said, I don't recall having any ear infections. So eventually they put a tube in my ear to help with the drainage, and that caused a severe infection. And so eventually they had to remove the tube because it caused the bone in my ear to erode. It's one of the bones that help hold your brain up, and it caused such a bad infection. And so from there, I had to have another CT scan. They had to look a little deeper. And so when this particular CT scan was performed, I went to the doctor one day, I remember in the month of August. And I went to speak with the ENT. He told me to have a seat. And that particular day, I was going through a little something in my life, and I was ready to get through the day so I could just go about my business. And he said, pull the scan up. He said, I have some news to tell you. I don't want you to be alarmed, but I want you to be concerned. And he told me at that particular time, they thought I had a tumor near my pituitary gland. And so that pituitary gland is one of the glands that control your hormones. And he was telling me because of the location, I needed to follow up with an endocrinologist as soon as possible. And so at that particular time, the size of that tumor or the size of the cyst then, because we didn't know what it was, it seemed like it was almost the size of a small lemon. So to fast forward, I went to go see an endocrinologist, and we found out it was non-cancerous. And leading up to my surgery, to this day, whatever showed up on that CT scan was not what they could not locate it during my first brain surgery.
Mm.
So again, with the fluid draining, minor headaches. There were times that night I would wake up and I felt like a stabbing pain going across my forehead. And it wouldn't persist for a long time. But for the longest, all of the doctors that I saw, they asked me, are you sure you're not suffering with bad migraines? I said, no, and then my vision was altered just a little bit. But I went back to my same prescription after all my surgeries, meaning I'm wearing the same contacts, same glasses. But idiopathic intracranial hypertension, it can cause one to go blind. It can cause you to lose sight in one or both eyes. I really didn't have a lot of major symptoms to lead to all the surgeries I have, but I was deemed critically ill.
Thank you, Dessie.
You're welcome.
Bueno, yo les pregunté a ella sobre los síntomas que ella tenía antes de ser diagnosticada. Ella me dice que ella empezó con un liqueo en la oreja y le dijeron que era una infección. Después le pusieron un tubo para que drenara, pero eso fue peor y eso le causó una infección muy grande. Porque esta conversación es interesante. No voy a estar traduciendo mucho para que el tiempo nos alcance a hacer toda esta pregunta y Dessie nos pueda compartir más, pero voy a dar, Dessie va a proveer alguna información donde podemos platicar más y yo puedo ayudar. Si ustedes sienten cualquier síntoma parecido, nunca saben y no es posible para un doctor hacer un diagnóstico, ¿ok? Bueno. Prior to being diagnostic, had you ever heard about IIH?
Never heard of it in my life. This thing is still somewhat, in my opinion, still developing. It had a different name prior to being called idiopathic intracranial hypertension. It was previously called pseudotumor cerebrae. And so, but the name eventually changed to idiopathic intracranial hypertension. Never heard of it before. And it is still a mystery to me to this day as to why it happens, outside of the two reasons that most doctors mention is that, because of obesity and, being involved in an accident. So idiopathic intracranial hypertension, just for those who are watching, and if you don't know, when you have intracranial hypertension, you have increased pressure in your brain. And typically when you have that increased pressure, it's due to brain fluid, and so also known as cerebrospinal fluid. So anytime you have fluid, a buildup of fluid or a brain leak, that can cause your pressure to go up. And that pressure literally feels like, if you ever thought about when you're boiling water, and if you're boiling water in a pot, and when that steam comes out of that pot, that's what it feels like in your head when you have a headache, when that pressure is up, and that pressure is like it's trying to escape and it has no way to escape. And most people are bedridden. They cannot work. A lot of people, a lot of the survivors a lot of the warriors that I know are now home, and they're out of work. They're dislocated from work because they can no longer work because of their condition. And the migraines are, it's like, it's a stabbing pain. And some medications can assist with it. Then some medications just don't work, and so with my support group that I try to encourage the warriors who are going through this. I really feel helpless at times because I try to do all I can to raise awareness, but it's not enough to raise awareness. We also need resources, with hopes that they will find a cure for this, the primary reason why it happens, and also to help those who cannot work anymore, because it affects their finances when they're no longer able to work. And then if they don't have health care insurance, that's a whole nother battle right there.
Mhm. That's true. And approaching this platform, I think is very important. That's why I focus to bring, uh, we can say things that but not many people know about it. So persons like you, for me, and I know for WCEG, it's very important to put out and let the people know, because like I say, many people happen months and years sometimes to visit doctors and going to different places with people who they natural herbs and things like that, trying to find a cure for this what they feeling, and they are sick, and it is so hard. And that's why I always say, just put attention around you and listen, because you may find you cure, and the way you can live better. And thank you, Dessie, again, because I think we need to put attention to that part of the community that is surviving all of these illness and pain and frustrations. Yeah, we need to work more on that.
Exactly. And can I say something to Ramona?
Yes, Daisy, please.
IIH and idiopathic intracranial hypertension, it does not discriminate. Let me tell you that much.
Mhm.
No illness discriminates. I don't care how healthy you are. It can change your livelihood. But one thing that I would say about me, and I know other warriors that have faith, but their pathway is different from mine. And I do believe, God, that He will heal them at some point in their lives. But I will tell you this, for me, I could not accept IIH for my life. Now, granted, I am still considered to have IIH based off of my medical history, but I just truly thank God that I had healthcare insurance to help me get the necessary care that I needed, because there's so many people, because they don't have health care or their health care is very limited, they cannot get the help they need. They have to go through so many different measures to get assistance and to get surgery. And so for me, I thank God for that. And I really, thank Him for that, because a lot of people, again, are very limited. And so that's why we need resources. And one last thing, Ramona, another one of my side effects that I didn't mention, and I don't know if you can somewhat hear my voice this morning, it's a little raspy this morning, which is minute. It can affect your sinuses. A lot of times, growing up, I don't really recall having problems with sinuses, but it will affect your sinuses. So sometimes people, when they think they have constant drainage, they think it's as a result of having sinus infections. Let me tell you, if you have drainage from your nose, it could be one or both sides of your nose. That was an indication later on through my journey that I had a brain leak and I didn't know. And so you're probably wondering, how can you tell the difference between the mucus or brain fluid? Well, there's a difference because the brain fluid is a clear liquid. It's a clear liquid. And when it runs or when it drains, it's like water running from a faucet. It can drip or it can drain continuously. So I just wanted to mention that because that was one thing that I omitted, but that is another symptom to look for.
Mm, very interesting. Thank you, Dessie.
Thank you.
So, can you tell me a little bit, prior you was diagnosed, how was your life?
How was my life? Oh, Ramona, honey, I was on the move. Let me tell you. So I love to travel. I love shopping. I just have an appreciation for life and connecting with people. And so prior to then, I was a workaholic. I worked all the time. And so any opportunity I had to travel, whether it was related to my job or in my personal life, I would travel. I was really I was really having a good life, in my opinion. And like I said, I was very active, always on the move, a part of some type of function, and I was doing pretty good. Now, was I working out? I felt like all that running I was doing was part of working out, but I was good. I really didn't have any indication that something was going on with my brain. I don't recall having anything, no, I mean, prior to then, but I was doing pretty good.
That's good. Can you tell us what you do? What is your occupation?
Okay. So I've been working for the state of Georgia for over 20 years. And right now I've been working in higher ed and I'm currently employed with Atlanta Technical College. And I really love that job because I consider it to be a calling. And so I'm the director of student activities there. And so also I do have a business as well, and it's Dessie Hall Consulting, in which I provide training to college students and advisors. And I also am actually developing more training right now for entrepreneurs because I have been an entrepreneur for many years. I've tried a variety of different things till I finally found what I really enjoy. And so again, I provide training. So, if you're ever looking to receive training, just let me know.
Thank you, Desi.
You're welcome.
So, how many how many surgeries you say you had, and with these surgeries, did you notice any improvement in your health?
Okay, so for my very first surgery, they went in to repair the brain leak, and based off my MRI, well, first let me answer your question. I had 3 brain surgeries, and so for the very first one, when the doctor went in, he could not locate my brain leak. So initially, based off the MRI, they put a graph over that area based off of where the leak was showing before. The way a CSF leak, it can be spontaneous. It can move from one area of your brain to another area. So that could have been the case in that situation. So to answer your question, they did, he was, let me use the right word. He was mystified because he couldn't locate the leak. But I will say that particular graph did prevent fluid from coming out of my ear. And so the fluid was leaking out of my right ear. And so later on, that was in 2017, 2018, I still experienced symptoms, which led to 2 more surgeries in 2019, February 2019, and also October 2019. And so the third surgery, they finally located the leak. The second time they did the surgery, they did not locate the leak. So that surgery was completely in vain, and I was very disappointed. But that third surgery, my doctor found the leak at that particular time. And the third surgery involved them lifting up my brain to work beneath that area. So technically, they didn't really call that one per se a brain surgery. They called that a cranial CSF leak repair. And so, again, they had to lift my brain up, honey, to go beneath to repair the leak there. And the leak itself was in my middle ear. So to fast forward since then, I have seen tremendous improvement. But I will say this to you. Anytime one is having surgery, it's so very important that you listen to the doctor's orders, meaning your recovery will depend on how you respond after surgery, meaning if you're going to follow those directives that you've been given, because if you don't, it could cause you to have a relapse. And in my instance, I followed the directives given by the doctor. You know, there were times I couldn't drive. There are times I had to do just completely light duty. I couldn't even exercise. There were some things I couldn't even do. But honey, let me tell you, to have the type surgeries that I've had, and the second time after that particular surgery, I felt good within a matter of days. I said, "Oh Lord, please, I hope you're not about to take me." But that third surgery, it took months before I saw a difference in my way of life. I was still able to walk, drive, and do some things, but I still had intracranial hypertension, the pressure in my head. There were times I felt like my head was about to explode. But I finally start seeing improvement. And I will say this global pandemic has affected people in many ways, but it has brought forth healing for me. And so being able to work remotely, and I've seen a significant difference in my way of life. And I've been able to practice self-care because, again, I told you I was a workaholic. I really didn't carve enough time for Dessie, but now I'm able to be active in my life since this pandemic. So I really thank God for that.
Yes, that's true. I think between into so much bad for the pandemic, I think many people had opportunity to spend time with themselves and heal many things that we are carrying for our long life. And I'm glad these have been positive for you, and you have opportunity use to take that time that for many times you wasn't able to get with yourself. Um, the diagnosis to have IIH, how was the impact in your job? Well, you are already tell us a little bit, but I know you have a daughter and you have your career, and plus you are a businesswoman. So how was the impact that has?
Well, that's a good question, because sometimes I think about that myself, and I try to say, well, what is different about me since all of these surgeries? And I know people wonder that, especially for people that know of me or know me personally, they try to see, like, is her cognitive skills where they need to be? Can she articulate anymore? And those are just, I have those times I have brain farts, Ramona. We can be in the middle of a conversation, but honey, let me tell you, I had that before my brain surgery. Okay. You just lose your train of thought in the middle of a sentence. But to be honest with you, Ramona, when I say you are looking at a blessed woman, and I am bragging on God, I ain't bragging on Dessie, honey. It's nothing that I've done. It's all him. Let me tell you, honey, he has truly blessed me. And I really feel as though he blessed me and put me in a position to be able to advocate for people, such as the ones that I know who are really going through this. And it hasn't been easy for them. They text and call me a lot. I've connected with so many people. And I always, it's so many women. They're just not in Georgia. They're all over the world. And I have people who reach out to me before their surgeries. And we pray, we talk. I talk to their support system to comfort them. And it's in a sense, it's like it's been a ministry for me. And I just thank God. So again, I'm not exempt, from any of the worst part of these symptoms happening to me. I am not. But God has blessed me and put me in position to have a platform so I can share with the world what to expect if they think they may have these conditions. In no way or form do I ever try to diagnose anyone. I always tell people, please speak with your doctor about IIH, hydrocephalus, or CSF leads. That's and I tell them what to look for and the type test to recommend, to request, to see if they have these conditions. Because if we can put a stop to it, or they can get the treatment and the care they need early on, I want them to get it. And overall, I just want to save their lives so that, they can continue on with their lives too. So again, outside of having these little brain farts, honey, and like I told you, I was already having those, I am good. My vision, let me tell you, honey, it's time to progress to some new lenses now. I will, but I tell you what, I'm getting close to 52, so I'm gonna go ahead and tell you now that I think that's just was already, in the works anyway. So, but for the most part, God has blessed me, honey.
Yes, and that is true, everything you say. And you talking about how the diagnosis, or in my case, it wasn't exactly IIH. It was, nobody knew, even if the doctors were like, my mom say it was like a team of 10 doctors, and nobody knew. It happened on the 80s, where it was a rare case of a tumor on the brain. And nobody knew, I don't know. But the symptoms you are saying are the same. I think the brain, is general. When something is happening in the brain, I think those are the most common symptoms for any kind, but it's good to know that right now is getting investigated, or more studies about the leak. um, because it can be the leak, it can be just a tumor. uh, what the doctor say about me, it was that when I was little, my mom leave me on the floor, and I just fall back, and they say maybe it was because she had got a lot of hits on the head.
Oh, wow.
Is what they say, because they never found really what it was. Thanks God, I have the proper care. My parents never give up on me, and thanks God I survived, because I remember a, another girl next to my bed, and she had the same like me, and she died. She
Wow.
survived. But
Wow.
for what I know, and my mom told me, I was one of the first persons, maybe, with that, on those times
Mm.
in my city in Leon. So, but I'm glad now, with all these researches, and with the advocacy you're doing, and more people doing about it, we already know what is it, and people
Yes,
know, okay, I have this, and I feel like this. I think I need to go to the doctor.
exactly. You
Yeah.
don't look like what you've been through, Ramona. And
Yeah.
see, IIH, I don't think I've properly defined what those different conditions were, but IIH mimics a brain tumor. Your
Mm.
brain thinks it has an invisible brain tumor. Now, how weird is that you had a brain tumor, and I'm sure you had symptoms to reflect, the fact that you had a tumor. I had a condition that my brain was just really tripping. And then with a CSF leak, it results in a tear in your dura. So that's what a CSF leak, as a result of the tear, there's a brain leak. And then hydrocephalus, you may have heard when babies are born with enlarged heads due to the cerebral spinal fluid, uh, also known as wart on the brain. That's what that is. And so adults can later have that in life. And so I just want to make mention of that. But yes, you look amazing, honey.
Thank you. I
You're welcome.
remember I started feeling with headaches. Then I start vomiting. I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
eat. Then I start walking break. I start walking, and my vision was blurry. I remember those things, and then suddenly when I was 5, I was on kindergarten, and I just fall, and I didn't know about me until I was on the hospital, and then is how I start my journey. I spent months on the hospital, and it was, I traveling, but I'm happy. And like you say, Dessie, I forgot to mention, but Dessie is one of my best friends since a long time, since maybe 2017, 2014, I think. Um, and I think, and I feel my life, I have a reason to be here, the same like you, Dessie.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, I think we already discovered, and we have been traveling so much with so many things, personally, professionally, and we have something to do here. That's why we're here.
Is that, and then Ramona, think about it. Think about your situation. All the symptoms you had, right? Imagine today people who are grown-ups, and some youth are going through this as well, living with the same symptoms, but there's no brain tumor there.
Mm,
That's
yeah,
agonizing. To think that they're going through that, and the brain thinks it has a tumor, and they're living with this every day. What Some people cannot walk,
yes.
and some have lost it. I have one warrior, she's been deemed legally blind,
Mm,
so just imagine that. So I just want to bring that to your attention, and to the people who are watching. That's not a way to live, but
yeah.
God is still able, though. He's still able.
Yes, and that's true. It's something that I always say, and say myself in my life. Um, I know sometimes we complain so much, but just think about it. There are many people in worse situations, so better don't complain.
Exactly. That's it.
Thank you, Daisy. So now,
Okay.
can you complete these sentences for me, Daisy? On a good day,
On a good day, we're in a pandemic, so on a good day, I like to take a ride on a
Mm,
good day. And the reason why I say on a good day I like to take a ride is because things have changed for our nation, for the world overall. And the things that we used to take for granted, such as taking a ride, enjoying looking at the trees, looking at how people interact, that ride is so therapeutic for me.
that's true. On a bad day,
I be still. I'm still on a bad day, and the reason why I say I am still, because I have to stop for a moment, and it's so important to stop. And last night was my moment to stop and to turn everything off, disconnect, and so I can reflect, so I can unwind. But I will say this, all of my good days definitely outweigh my bad days. All of my good days outweigh my bad days. And when I feel myself falling or going into a slump, I have to remember why he brought me this far. So I try to stay up, and it's not easy. If you turn on the news and you listen to it long enough, it will put you in a state of depression. It will put you in a position wondering like, Lord, when will this ever end? This pandemic ever end? When will these deaths stop? But I have to always keep some hope alive. And so I choose to keep hope alive and choose to continue to look up.
Thank you, Dessie.
You're welcome.
There is a lot to talk and a lot of questions to make to you, but one important question is for those who are listening, what are some remedies or practice that work for you? Yes.
Okay. Well, I like to meditate, and meditation is important. And what you feed your mind is important. Because if one, you can say you are healed all day long, but if you don't believe it, you don't have nothing to support the fact that you want to be healed or that you're going to walk in it, then you got to be careful what you feed your mind. Two, I would say as well, what you eat. What you eat is so important. I am a foodie. I love some good food, honey. I am from the South, and I love some soul food, but I don't always cook soul food. And I'm not saying soul food is bad, but you have to be careful about what you put in your body. And you have to get an opportunity. If you're sick, you have some form of illness, you need to learn all you can about it. Learn what the do's and the don'ts are. So that way you'll know what your triggers are. If it's certain foods can trigger problems. For me, I love my coffee, honey, and I have a cup over here looking at me right now. And I love my creamer in it. But dairy can really trigger IIH. I have learned that because I have a VP shunt. And the way the shunt works is there's a device in my head. Anytime excessive fluid builds up, it'll drain fluid in a tube. And there's a tube, because I had 3 incisions for the shunt. And so there's a tube that's in my body that is pretty much, it's like hanging in my abdomen. So anytime that fluid builds up, the shunt would drain it. It goes out through a tube in my stomach. And anytime that Dessie, honey, has had too much dairy, let me tell you, honey, this head feels like it's about to explode. And so I have to know how much I can consume. And sometimes right now I'm trying to fast from dairy. So anyways, you have to know what your triggers are. I can jump. My family kind of get a little worked up when sometimes when I have my grandson, he has me jumping. We'll box every now and then. We'll go outside and play. We'll swing. And people always like, oh, Dessie, you shouldn't be doing that. Well, I don't have any restrictions. I can still do it. And so, but you just have to know what your triggers are. And you won't know that until time goes on. But also after you do your research, it'll tell you what you should do and what you should not do. But everybody is different. Some things, like some people can consume dairy, it may not affect them in any ways. I will say this right here, this may be a good nugget to help someone with. I learned after being a part of different support groups on social media that you can eat according to your blood type and how that will help you in losing weight, because there's certain foods based on your blood type that will make you gain weight. And so if you learn that, maybe that can help you, because losing weight can really solve a lot of problems, but it may not solve all the problems for everybody, but it will solve a lot of problems for people.
That's true, and that is very important. And people, we don't know, consider that this contribute a lot to develop illness or cure sometimes, to illness. And that the important thing I take from you too is we need to slow down. We need to slow down in our lives because stress is a detonator for illness. Stress can make worse the illness in your body. And if you're not good, nobody gonna be good. And
Exactly.
yeah. Tell me a little bit with your condition, Dessie, a little bit how this has affect the relationships around you. Because I know um, in my experience when I was growing up with my condition, I after the surgery I had a lot. I have maybe 1 year or more than a year to recover, but my ability to communicate, my ability to express with other people has been hard. And sometimes people don't accept the way you are. They don't accept the way you express with them or the way you act, because
Mm-hmm.
it's in your brain, and many of the times you cannot control, your brain and your.
Exactly. So, I would say this as it relates to relationships, I've had a great support system. My family, my mother and father have been very supportive. I have a cousin who's a registered nurse who flies all the way from Tampa to Georgia to come care for me for every surgery that I've had. Thank you, Tangi. And honey, it's good to have a medical a professional in your family, so they can tell you kind of like how to communicate with doctors and questions to ask. Because I tell you, I never would have known half of the stuff if it had not been for her support. And also, again, when you're sick, when you're sick, and you in the hospital or you home in your bed sick, take a look around your bed. Look at your support system. There's some people that say they are ride or die to the end, honey. But when you're sick, take a look and look around. Those are not all your real friends, because granted, there are times everybody cannot be there, but they can lift you up in prayer. So, but then at times, these people calling you, checking on you, I know the people who are genuine in my life, and there's some people who say they were in support of me, but they vanished away. And I'm not even offended whatsoever, because things change, seasons change. I don't have time to be offended by what people say or do. I will say there have been times, there have been challenges when you talk about communication. I do a lot of training. And I don't always share this, because I don't want people to think that that I'm, not competent or anything like that. But there are times in the middle of delivering training, my mind just go completely blank. And I remember when it first happened after my third brain surgery, I was in the middle of facilitating training, and my mind just went. And I was like, I couldn't even bounce back for that moment. But one thing, and the people, I don't know if they really caught it, but I was so strategic in that thing, and just spontaneous. I just came up with an activity to offset it. And I knew what was happening, but I couldn't pause for too long, because I had paused long enough. And in the middle of delivering, it left me just like that. So I say to people that in your profession, in order to bounce back or whatever you're doing, if you're giving training or whatever you're doing, always have a script available. And even if, honey, if you have not had any brain surgeries, have your script, honey, because you never know when your train of thought will just totally be off. You never know. Somebody can do or say something, cause you to forget everything. Always have a script as a backup, and always rise to the occasion, because, hey, everybody don't necessarily need to know that, hey, she's something going on. She lost. She completely forgot she's off right now.
Mhm.
No, I was able to rise to the occasion And but for that moment, it was very frightening for me. They didn't know that. At the end of that session, I was somewhat dumbfounded. I said, "Oh my God!" I said, "Oh, is this affecting my short-term memory?" You know. And
Yeah.
so I always have a script available. And
That,
I just, really thank God that I was able to, recover, because I could have stood there trying to figure it out. You know how it is, you stand there, you try to figure out, what was that thought? What was I about to say? And I didn't have that expression on my face, but inside I was like, it was a battle. Like, oh my God, like they're looking at me, ready for me to give them the information they need so they can be successful. And here I am, my brain is completely shut down.
yeah,
But
that happened, and that is a good advice. Dessie, can you tell in us where we can find you, where people can find your information and get in touch with you?
yeah, so you can find me at DessieHall.com, and I can be found on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Dessie Speaks. And my first name is spelled, just in case if you cannot see it, Dessie, and it Speaks at Dessie Speaks. And so, again, please connect with me on my platforms. And again, take a look at my website, DessieHall.com, so you can learn a bit more about my journey and also about the services in which I provide.
Gracias, Dessie. Thank you so much, Dessie. Y no quiero irme sin antes dejarles saber, esta plática que hemos tenido hoy es muy interesante y creo que ayudará mucho a las personas a identificar esta condición. Si usted tiene síntomas como agua en los oídos, agua que viene caminando por su nariz, si usted empieza a caminar como se va para un lado, se va para otro, si usted empieza con dolores de cabeza, si empieza a sentir asco, no puede comer, todos esos síntomas, y usted ha ido al doctor y el doctor no ha podido diagnosticar ciertamente con algo específico, no pierda tiempo y vale la pena ir a checarse con un endocrinic. Bueno, podemos hacer, mi pronunciación no es buena para esa palabra, pero necesita ir con un especialista, necesita ir a buscar y dejarle saber, ¿usted cree que sea IIH o hipertensión cerebral? Porque si usted tiene esta información y puede aplicarla, usted puede tener un diagnóstico rápido. No deje pasar el tiempo en nuestra comunidad. Yo sé que a veces decimos, oh, con una pastilla se me quita, o, ay, es una infección en la oreja, pero esa infección nunca se va. Creo que vale la pena por nuestra salud y por el bien de nuestra familia alrededor de nosotros ir a checar con un doctor especialista. Como siempre, yo les deseo lo mejor. Por favor, vuélvanos a repetir este programa en WCEG Network, en YouTube. También puede volver a mirar este programa en Facebook. So I was advising the Hispanic community and other communities too to go and check if they feel, the symptoms, and they have already gone to the doctor and nobody found what they have. They need to run to a specialist and they can get a diagnosis sooner, And Dessie, I just want to thank again and the platform to WCG to take the time and let us know about the journey, about this. And I ask to this platform, to our officers, officials, non-profit, to raise awareness about this illness, because something that is not common, but still is very important. It's very important to know what is around us. And again, just listen and give you the chance to meet other people and hear their stories, because that may be your, you know, to create a new way of life, to help yourself and to help somebody else. So Dessie, can you let us with what is your advice for people about this?
Okay. So my advice for you, if you have IH or any other illness, honey, don't give up. You still have purpose. You know, you still have purpose. No matter what you're going through, you still have purpose. And if you don't know how to discover the purpose that you have, then ask God. Ask God, what is it that I'm supposed to be doing right now? Because I will say this, it's not easy being vulnerable, sharing my story, because I'm sure that, you know, people sometimes will, they will stereotype you based off of your past, or probably think that you are not, you know, who you used to be, or whatever it is, or they may not include you in certain things. They may look at you differently, but I am not worried about that group of people. I love them anyways. My mission is to spread awareness. And so again, and to let people know they still have purpose. I met a lady at Walmart the other day, and she was using the scooter, or what, I forget what you call it. You know, when shoppers use that to, they cannot walk for a long period of time. And we start talking, it started about coffee. And she was saying she was working in banking, and now she's having these medical conditions going on right now, and she's no longer able to work. I said, well, honey, you still have purpose. I said, why don't you just have host like training sessions online, provide banking, information on financial literacy or something. I'm sure you have some information you have obtained over time since working in banking that you can provide to people who are trying to be more financially stable. And she said, I never thought about that. I said, yes, ma'am, you still have purpose. So whoever's watching, no matter what you're going through, you still have purpose. And based off what you used to do, you can take those skills, that knowledge, and share with people. Even if it's not a huge platform, it can be 5 people, it can be 2 people, it can be 50 people. You can still share your knowledge and wisdom, because people are waiting on you.
That's true, Dessie. And with that, I'm gonna say thank you so much for all your time. Thank you to our audience, WCEG, and gracias por este tiempo y just enjoy life.
Thank you for having me.